Welcome to Early Research Stories, the podcast that brings you inspiring stories from diverse voices in the world of learning and instruction. Join us as we dive into the latest trends, research breakthroughs, and insights shaping the field today. Hosted by Chris Castro, Rachel Shanks, and Leonie Johan, this is your inside look at the heart of educational research.
Everyone, welcome to this episode of our podcast. Today we are with Jonne Bloem and Tanja Bros, who are both junior researchers and also current early special interest group 8, short for SIG, for motivation and emotion JURE coordinators. Jonne is a PhD candidate at the Department of Education at Utrecht University in the Netherlands, while Tanja is a postdoctoral researcher at the Professorship of Empirical Education Research at the University of Augsburg in Germany. So this podcast is also a bit to showcase junior researchers' work in early. Welcome again, Jonne and Tanja.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Chris Castro. Can we please start by telling our audience a bit about your current positions as a PhD or a postdoc and how it led you to become SIG 8 junior coordinators?
When I think about what made me start this position, it started 4 years ago when I was finishing my research master's at Utrecht University. And in my thesis, I studied how teachers differentiate their behaviors towards students from different backgrounds. And I used self-determination theory for this. And I was very fortunate that a PhD position opened up with one of my supervisors. So I applied for this position. And I was very happy because this allowed me to do research on a topic that's very close to my heart. And this was very important for me to make this decision. From the start of my PhD, I was already a bit familiar with my supervisors and the team that I'm in. So I also looked for the opportunities to broaden my network and to take on activities alongside my research. I really wanted a fuller experience of the academic life, and someone in the department knew this for me and mentioned the SIG 8 JURE coordinator role. So she really encouraged me to apply. So I'm still very happy that she thought of me, because I really jumped right in. It was actually my first early conference, if I remember correctly, in Thessaloniki in 2023. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity I got, even though I just learned about the SIG, and everyone was very welcoming and enthusiastic. So that was very nice.
Sounds like as if you were really lucky, Jonne. That's good to hear. What about you, Tanja?
Yeah, so I'm currently working as a postdoc at the University of Augsburg. And I also conducted my PhD on emotions in the achievement context here. And for me, the story was a little bit different than Jonne's. So I'm going to tell you. So for me, at some point along the way during my PhD, I realized that I wanted to become more actively involved in a research community, as I consider the exchange among researchers very highly valuable. So I would say I had two main reasons, apart from many other reasons, for choosing the SIG 8. One is related to the content, and the other one is related to the community. So from a content perspective, my research focuses on achievement emotions, which, as you just heard, closely aligns with the topics of SIG 8, focusing on motivation and emotion. And from a community perspective, I have to say that my very first conference during my PhD, which was the JURE conference in the year 2022, which took place in Portugal, left a very strong impression on me. So I was very excited to see how supportive and engaging the community was. And I found it super valuable to connect with other early career researchers for exchanging ideas, but also talk about challenges that a lot of us face, which are quite similar among the PhDs, and also talk about ways to overcome these challenges, so to get some tips and recommendations from others. So then a few years later, I attended the ICM conference, and it became even clearer to me that this is the community I would truly like to engage in, because I think it's a very open and friendly community. So then I applied for the coordinator position, and thankfully I got elected.
Thank you. That was a very interesting kind of glimpse into your path. I believe you might have had some mentors who helped you on your ways. Can you maybe help us understand a bit, like, who were your mentors? Maybe Tanja, you want to launch in first?
Yes, sure. I would love to. So I have to say, luckily, I always felt quite supported in my career. So during my initial teacher studies, I worked as a student assistant in a larger research project on students' motivation and peer relationships. And I found that quite interesting. So I decided to continue along the research path and applied for a research master's program. And that master was quite intense as we were only 12 students, so quite a small group of students. And the lecturers were very supportive, and I would say I learned a lot. So during that time, I also worked as a student assistant. So I would say I gradually transitioned into the academic career. Looking back, I'm definitely super grateful for all the amazing researchers that supported me at the University of Augsburg, but also outside the University of Augsburg. And I'm still very happy that there are so many amazing people that support me and my work.
Thank you. What about you, Jonne?
Yes, actually, it's very nice to hear Tanja's story because coincidentally, my experience are quite similar regarding this topic. During my bachelor's in educational sciences, I also worked as a research assistant. And by being involved and seeing every step of research, I became very interested in pursuing research myself. So the researcher that I worked with mentioned the research master's program in my university, and I applied. And similar to Tanja, we were also in an intense program with little students, 11 if I remember correctly. And throughout the master's, I had the opportunity to work with many inspiring researchers. So from there, transitioning into from the master into my PhD at the same department was very smooth. And I always felt very supported by both the peers who were also moving into PhDs, both at the same university, but also into different universities, but also by my supervisors and other professors and researchers in the department. And already knowing that many people really helped me to feel comfortable from the start. So we were used to having conversations about career decisions, which also opened up broader discussions about academic environments and international communities and different networks, for example. So yeah, that really helped me to get an overview of what was out of there and also to think about where I wanted to be involved. And at the same time, they gave me a lot of space to explore for myself and encourage me to try out different things. So that has been very helpful.
One thing I also noticed, like now while you were speaking, is that you're both really good in English. Is that something
Thanks.
is that something you learned like on the way, or which was incorporated in these master programs? And would you say it's something which is important in terms of actually developing and becoming a researcher?
I would start, and so thanks for the compliment. I would say that in Germany, or like I was luckily that I got a lot of like education in the English language, or that at our school they really focused on us learning English, and I also had English courses until I got my degree. I would say it's definitely quite helpful to be fluent in English because that's of course like that's our research language. But I would also encourage people that not yet feel very confident in talking English and writing in English, that it's not a reason to not stay in academia, and just make sure that maybe you take a few courses at university. And I think it's you can always learn and improve.
For us, it was not really taught explicitly, the English. We got a lot of good feedback on our writing, but not explicitly for the speaking or listening, for example. But I believe that we got a very safe environment throughout the masters in which we could learn and apply the English. And this was also something that we discussed, like we're not fluent, we're not natives. We had students from different countries. So that really allowed me, and I believe also the other students, to practice and just do it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the only way that we can learn and become a bit more fluent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, from us today, I think I'm the one with the strongest accent, but it's beautiful how we have all these different accents. So we were talking about these mentors, so people helping you. What about organizations helping you? So the main organization hosting this podcast, for example, EARLI. What can you mention about how EARLI has shaped or helped you in your PhD or postdoc positions?
Yeah, so as mentioned earlier, I dove right into the SIG AIDS community right after the start from my PhD. So everything was really new, and I learned a lot about international research communities and perspectives from people from different countries. And I was able to connect with many inspiring people. One thing that I want to highlight is the interview we had with Lifetime Achievement Award winner from our SIG AIDS Motivation and Emotion, Reinhard Beckroom, which was a very fun and also valuable experience. Actually, by connecting with many different people, I learned a lot about also how PhD trajectories differ across many countries, and I gained a lot of insights into things that I otherwise would have to figure out much more slowly. So that has been very valuable. And it also made me think about more the hidden and the unwritten rules of academia. So for early career researchers, having a community that shares this kind of hard to access information can be incredibly valuable. For example, think about how to choose and to apply for conferences or how to write proposals. And as our SIG 8 JURE coordinators, we try to support the early career researchers in exactly these ways. So, for instance, we organize a JURE Connect and a first-time submitters meetings that are online, accessible meetings for everyone who would like to join. And in these meetings, we have open conversations about these topics.
Thank you. Tanja?
Yeah, I'm totally on the same page as Jonne regarding the importance of supporting early career researchers. So in contrast to Jonne, I became a JURE coordinator towards the end of my PhD. So by that point, I had already experienced the, I would say, day-to-day work of a researcher, such as writing papers, applying to and attending conferences. As I mentioned earlier, I'm a big fan of the early conferences. My first conference was the JURE conference, and I felt that based on the experience I had gained during my PhD, I might be able to support other junior researchers. So I would say EARLI has had a strong impact on my PhD and still has on my postdoctoral way, as being part of this very open and motivated community has not only advanced my work, but also has helped me felt connected to other researchers, for example, through paper collaborations or joint symposia.
Yeah, and for me, it has been very valuable to also collaborate with more experienced JURE coordinators.
Thank you for these insights. That's very interesting to hear about kind of like your work as coordinators. We would like to know a bit more what actually drives you. Like, what are your ambitions? Because this is a kind of task which comes in addition to your research.
Yeah, that's, I think, a very interesting question. So I would say that my work as a junior coordinator is motivated by the fact that I myself grew up in an environment that supported and encouraged me. However, I know that doctoral studies are conducted in a wide variety of settings, so including inside and outside out of universities, where the level of support can vary greatly. So I'm aware that not everyone might receive a lot of support during their PhD. So I would say that one of our goals is definitely to reach out to support those who might not yet have had access to such networks, for example, the SIG 8 network. I also consider networking to be important, not only for building professional relationships, but also for advancing progress in our field of research. So I would say in this context, working with junior researchers is very rewarding for me and has been very rewarding for me.
Yeah, I do actually fully agree with Tanja. So one thing that I've learned is that a supportive environment is not self-evident. And even though I've been very fortunate with the education and support I received, creating a network where people can share experiences and learn from each other is very valuable actually for everyone. So besides that, I'm also a very social person, and I find connecting and interacting with others intrinsically rewarding. So I really like to take on a variety of tasks, and this position really allows me to do that.
So you're talking about networks, connections, communities. Any thoughts on the Dutch or the German culture helping or not helping these aims?
Yeah, maybe I start. I don't know if I would just like focus on the culture, but maybe some people say that the Germans are not so open. I would disagree. And I think it's like, yeah, there are a lot of very friendly researchers in our community.
In our community, the German and the Dutch, maybe also the Dutch, are quite overrepresented. But so that's that's a fun thing as well. But yeah, no, I agree with Tanja.
Thank you. We were also kind of wondering, or like you're two coordinators, but most of the others, or I think you're the only SIG with two coordinators. How did that come about? And is that something you would recommend also for other SIGs, like having two instead of one coordinator?
I think it's very fun, at least for us to collaborate. So I would recommend, but I think it's a decision based on the size of our SIG. We are one of the biggest SIG, so they want more representatives as well for that, because it's more to organize. And I think it's a decision based on that.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, it's quite cool. We are in total 4 people as a coordinators, and talking about community work and networking. Of course, it's also, or it has been very great to network with Jonne and the 2 other coordinators, Martin and Wendy. So getting to know them, and we meet up regularly and exchange ideas and talk about things that go on and happen in our SIG.
And it makes it also easy to transition from coordinator to coordinators, because we're all in the position for 4 years, but every 2 years, one senior and one junior coordinators is moving out, and then 2 new one come. So we can easily learn from each other and transition information from the one coordinator to the next. So that's really helpful as well.
So talking about SIG 8 in more detail, what are the researchers doing in that special interest group 8?
I think that's good to dive into. Yeah. So within our SIG, we form a community of many researchers that focus on motivation and emotion research, who bring together educational scientists who study motivation and emotion processes in learning. So basically, our work covers a wide range of theoretical frameworks, target populations, and also methodologies. For example, SIG members study well-being among younger and older students, adults, but also teachers on topics such as test anxiety, teacher-student interactions that support well-being, drawing on theories such as self-determination theory, achievement goal theory, expectancy value theory, and also methodologically includes qualitative as well as quantitative designs. But I'm curious what Tanja would want to add to this description of our SIG.
I think this sums up the research of our SIG perfectly. So I would only add that ultimately the goal of our research is to better understand motivation and emotion processes to support individuals in their emotional and motivational experience.
And going into more detail about research, about publications, any publication, any paper, your own or an important one that you want to highlight today for our audience?
Given my background as an immersion researcher, I would especially like to highlight the work of Ulrike Nett and Anne Frenzel. So Ulrike Nett's work focuses, among other things, on understanding situation-specific emotions using the experience sampling method, highlighting that emotions differ not only between persons, but that a person's emotional experience is also a situation-dependent dynamic process. So we should consider both persons and situations in our research. And on the other hand, Anne Frenzel has, among many other things, of course, explored emotional transmission processes between teachers and their students. So I think it's essential, both in teaching future teachers, which we do quite a lot, and also in our research, is that we consider how emotions and similar aspects, for example, motivation, are transmitted between individuals, as understanding this can offer a powerful tool for influencing and guiding behavior positively.
If you ask me about a paper, I have to think about a paper that I learned about a couple of months ago from Christy Robinson from 2023. In this article, she presents a motivational climate theory. That's a theory that really advances our understanding of motivational dynamics in the classroom by synthesizing and connecting existing research and theories, but also providing new insights that have clear implications for practice. Personally, I really enjoyed reading this paper as it contributes to a comprehensive overview of motivational processes and how they interact as well.
Do you, as SIG coordinators and junior researchers, do you kind of promote the dissemination to your members of your group in other ways than scientific articles?
Yeah, a topic that I'm quite excited about. I think it's very important, and that's also why I highlighted the practical relevance and implications in the article of Christy Robinson that I just mentioned. In my personal research, dissemination is also part of the project that I'm at. I collected data in primary schools, and we also send out school reports at the end of the data collections and information to the teachers about how their classes and how they were doing. But we're also now a bit at the end of the project, and we're working on a video that we will make openly available, and little booklets for teachers as well.
What we try to do, or what we've done in the past and still continue to do, is apart from paper publication, is that we do workshops for teachers based on our research findings. And we also have a little manual where we wrote down how we conduct the workshop so that other people can use it. And we also sometimes give keynotes at schools to inform them and to talk with them about emotions and motivation and emotion regulation of teachers. So I think it's always good, and we should keep that in mind also in the future.
I agree. Thank you very much. That was very interesting to hear your thoughts about that. In the meantime, by the way, we researched, and there are 394 members in your SIG by 2025. So you're the third largest early SIG.
That's great. It's good that we are one big SIG.
Still manageable, right?
Yes, definitely.
Good.
Thank you. In the end, we always ask a big question about work-life balance. Like, I think we as researchers all have to dwell with that question. Do you have any tips for some other young researchers how to do that?
Yes, that's a very important topic to also talk about work-life balance. So since I really enjoy my work, sometimes it's not so easy to stop working on a certain task. But of course, it's also important to have a life outside academia. So I'd say I could have handled the work-life balance part a little bit better during my PhD. But now as a postdoc, I stick more strictly to my work hours and usually schedule an activity, for example, exercising after work, which really helps me unwind from work. What I would recommend is that you find a hobby you really enjoy alongside your work and make concrete plans for your time after work, and also try to stick to them. Furthermore, also stay in touch with people outside academia.
Yeah, work-life balance is really, really important. And besides doing research, I personally really like to exercise, set new running goals, read books, cook, and also spend time with my friends and family. So during some periods, it can be a challenge to stay within working hours, but I always try to also make time of myself where I can spend time on those hobbies. So taking time off more regularly, I think it also really helps you to be more productive at work. So if I can give one tip for young researchers to stick to this, is to realize that their work does not have to be perfect, and that receiving feedback on ongoing work is also part of the process. So really plan your holidays and your leisure as well.
That was very good tip. Linked to that, maybe a final question. Where do you think best? Is that in the office, or do you think about research? When do you think you have the best ideas?
Yeah, I think it's also linked to this topic, right? If I'm in the office thinking and I have the meetings and you're trying to come up with ideas, of course they come sometimes. But if I take some time off, and then it pops up sometimes when you don't expect it. So yeah, no, really the free time for yourself and time of work helps for that as well. Yeah.
For me, I would say it depends a little bit on the task I'm doing. There are some tasks like doing statistical analysis that I prefer to do in the office. But then there are, of course, a lot of other tasks in our daily work. And a part of our work is being very, I would say, quite creative and thinking about research questions. And here I would say I'm a little bit more flexible. So sometimes these ideas come when you drive home from work or when you're out and about running, as Jonne and I mentioned that we both like to run. What also helps me is to talk to other people about my research and to get like their insight, and like also people from inside academia, but also from outside academia. So I sometimes also talk to friends or my family about my research and try to explain them. And by explaining them, then you realize what you yourself may need to get even clearer or something. So that's also quite helps me. So I would say both inside the office at university, but also, of course, learning and creating ideas and having creative thoughts can also happen outside academia, which is also, I think, quite a nice part of our job. Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's also all connected to motivation and emotion, right?
Yeah.
No, yeah. Yeah.
Very good point. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experiences.
Yeah, thank you for the
so much.
invitation. It was very nice to talk to you. Yeah.
Thank you, very interesting.
Listeners, make sure to subscribe, follow us on social media, and stay tuned for the exciting episodes we have coming your way. See you next time on the Early Research Stories podcast.